Family, welcome to another exciting edition of A Shot of Wrestling, the interviews. If you have not done so already, follow us on all forms of social media at A Shot of Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, and Shot of Wrestling No A on Twitter. You can contact us via email at inbox@shotofwrestling.com or dial it up 619-343-3005 and leave your comments on a Shot of Wrestling hotline. Now, we've said it time and time again that wrestling brings us together, and today it's no different. Today we are joined by fitness model, actor, and wrestling's five-tool player, Anthony Bowens. Welcome to a Shot of Wrestling.
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me.
It is truly a pleasure. We met recently at Impact tapings, so it was nice to catch up with you there. And it felt like the whole New York wrestling indie scene was in that building, like the best of the best.
Yeah, people started filtering in as the days went by. It was, wow, a lot of people here.
When did you hear early on that you were going to be part of that weekend?
I think a couple weeks beforehand. I knew at least that I'll be there. I had no idea if I would be working or not until literally the day I got there, or the third day. I was just kind of hanging around, and Dut came up to me and was like, "Yep, you're working Follow tonight." I was like, "Sweet."
Let's talk about wrestling's five-tool player, because you're the perfect combination of athleticism, power, intelligence, the look, and the it factor. And you've made your Impact Wrestling debut. Now, I don't want to call it a gimmick, because I definitely think you could back each one of those attributes up. But how did you come up with this moniker?
So, I think my biggest issue over the years was trying to find a character or something that I can really sink my teeth into, that I can present and connect with the audience. Because in the beginning, I had the Untouchables gimmick. We were in that little faction, and then I was floundering around a little bit without a character once that group broke up, and then I started the Power Rangers thing. And Power Rangers thing didn't go the way I wanted to, simply because I didn't put the effort in, because I wanted it to be an entire in-depth character, but I didn't make the effort to make vignettes and do promos, kind of explaining what the character was about. So it just kind of came off as, I guess, like a nostalgia pop. So I'd come through the curtain, like, "Oh, that guy's cool. Like, he has Power Rangers gear on." Woo! Yeah. And then thankfully I'm a badass worker in the ring, and then people had something to cheer and latch onto, because if I sucked, it would have been bad. But I wanted to find something that was more me in real life, and something that I can work with, and I can be a heel, I could be a baby, I can have backstories. So I was deliberating each night at my desk, trying to figure out something, and I happened to be FaceTiming with Casey Navarro, who I've been mentoring since he was 15.
That's amazing.
He slowly became one of my best friends in the business.
He's one of our favorite people to see perform. He's amazing.
He's incredible. He's done a great job, and I'm very proud of him. We were FaceTiming, and sometimes we do kind of tape study over FaceTime.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
We were just kind of going over one of my matches, and he was like, "Here comes Anthony Bowens. He's a 5-tool player." And Casey was like, "Whoa, you should just call yourself the 5-tool player. That's a baseball reference. You played baseball back in the day." And I was like, "Holy crap, you're right." And then slowly but surely we started just diving into what this character was about, his mottos, his attributes. And then I think within a day or two, I kind of had everything I needed to move forward. And basically the 5-tool player is somebody who at one point in time didn't have it all. And he worked very, very hard over the years to sharpen his tools to become very successful and become the superstar that he is today.
Gotcha. Well, let's break it down a little bit. The athleticism. Now, you mentioned baseball being part of it. You played baseball at a high collegiate level for Seton Hall, and I have to ask, how does the baseball practices and drills compare to the drills that you have in professional wrestling?
Both were very hard. I wouldn't say equally hard. Wrestling training has always been a bit harder in the sense of conditioning and blow-up drills. But even on baseball at Seton Hall, we were we were drilled into the ground conditioning-wise. So yeah. I had a very good, I guess, foundation going into wrestling, because I was kind of used to being destroyed from a conditioning standpoint. So I think they're They're not similar, but they are at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay. Do you find it harder, I guess, the conditioning in baseball? And I think also
No,
at
definitely wrestling is harder
wrestling harder?
conditioning wise.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one, power. There's no doubt, just by looking at you, you look like a powerful man. How much do you bench?
The max I've ever benched was 405,
Whoa.
but that was me being young and stupid. Because now I found that lifting a lot lighter with higher reps feels a lot better on the body. It's a lot better on the joints, and you don't have to worry about getting injured as much.
Just as a regular person looking at your conditioning, looks like you have the full package. What are your personal conditioning goals?
I'm kind of happy with where I'm at right now because I want to say over the last 8 months or so, I've dropped 20 pounds. I was at 220, 221-ish, and I looked good, I guess, from like an upper body standpoint, but I just happened to see a photo of myself, and I wasn't as lean as I thought I should be, and also I just wasn't moving as quickly as I used to, because I used to be a little bit lighter when I first started the business.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to get back to that feel and have more of a lean look. So I really focused on emphasizing cardio after workouts a lot more. So I would do maybe about 25 to 30 minutes of conditioning after each one of my workouts. And then slowly but surely, I saw the pounds melt away. So now I'm sitting at around like 205, 200, 205. I fluctuate a lot.
It's been quite a journey with your conditioning because playing baseball, I'm sure your body was used to a certain type of regimen, and now, you're building muscle, building mass, but still you're trying to keep light to do what you do in the ring.
Yeah, it was a different kind of lifting because obviously you don't want to be too blocky and bulky for baseball. It was more of a lean, a lean muscle type look, and also like strengthening like fast twitch fibers within the muscle. So it was a completely different lifting regimen.
Yeah. Now, the five-tool player, intelligence. Being an athlete, I'm sure, playing at the level you were, you had to maintain a certain GPA. What did you study in college?
I studied broadcasting. I have a bachelor's degree in TV and radio production.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. What were your favorite courses in that?
Honestly, most of them, because once I became a junior or senior and I got rid of all the,
all the crap they make you take.
Yeah, all that garbage. Once I got past all that, my classroom became a TV studio. So every day I went to school, I was just hanging out in the TV studio, learning how to do cameras and learning how to direct a show or produce a show. And it was just very fun. So anything really that we did my last 2 years of college was pretty cool.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did a little production in school towards my final years, and I'm a media studies major. So it's funny how you would think the courses would just get harder and harder as you excel in your pursuit to your bachelor's, but for somehow it got easier because there were a lot more survey classes, and it was like more opinionated based on what you've already learned before. And then, like you said, you're in the studio and you're now creating projects. Do you remember any one of the projects you created in school that you're really proud of?
Yes, actually. It's the one that led me into becoming a wrestler, actually.
Oh.
My TV3 class, our final project was to be in a group of 4, and we each would have to do a 8-minute news piece and then go into the studio and produce a 30-minute TV show. And this happened right when Hurricane Sandy hit. So I was scheduled to go out to, I should rewind. I was doing my little piece on pro wrestling because at the time I was really getting back into it, and I was thinking about becoming one, but I really didn't know how to. So I figured, hey, let me try and do a little documentary, I guess, on wrestling. And while that was going on, WWE was in the area, and usually when they're in the area, they lift at the gym I go to. So I kind of called out of all of my class, not called out, emailed my professors and said I was sick. And I went over to the gym and kind of was just being a big fan and just taking pictures with people. And the last person that I met there was Santino Marella.
Oh, wow,
and,
cool.
I took a photo with him, and I was like, hey, thank you. And as I was walking away, he stopped me. He was like, hey, you look like a pro wrestler. Have you ever thought about becoming one? And I was like, what? Like, that's so weird. I've been trying to figure out how to do this for like the last year. I just really don't know how or where to go. And he goes, 1 second. And he pulled out his phone, and he gave me the number to Pat Buck, who was the owner and trainer at Creator Pro.
Right.
And then I gave him a call, and a week later I showed up to check out the school while also shooting footage for my TV3 class. And it kind of all became this perfect storm. That's a terrible way to describe it. I understand. So no pun intended there.
No pun intended.
But yeah, everything kind of just worked out. I was there for 5 minutes filming, and I was like, I need to do this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Wow. Did you get an A in the project?
I don't particularly remember what I got, but I do remember it. It came out pretty good, but it was a nightmare to produce because you need a crew to shoot that kind of thing. But since the hurricane did hit, 2 of the people were, their homes were pretty affected, so they couldn't go on the shoot.
Okay.
And the other guy was like a weird, sketchy person who just never showed up. So I had to set up the shoot. I had to light it. I had to do the interview. I had to make sure the audio levels were good. I had to watch the video and all that. Anything that goes into a production, I had to do by myself. So there was a lot of stuff that got overlooked, and it didn't come out as quality as I wanted it to, but she understood considering the circumstance.
Gotcha. Well, while we're talking about the 5 tools, the next one is the look. Granted, you're a good-looking guy, but the look when it comes to professional wrestling, it's usually a little bit more than just a pretty face. So what are the key pieces that contribute to your look?
Hard work for being in the gym pretty much 5 or 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I would say diet, but that's probably the biggest weakness of the 5-tool player. He loves Chipotle.
Oh, okay. What do you usually order when you go to Chipotle?
I usually get just a burrito, brown rice, steak, mild corn and cheese. No guac.
Oh,
no
okay.
guac.
No guac? Oh, man.
But I'm on the quesadilla kick right now. The steak quesadillas, so that's typically my order.
Well,
but I think work ethic would be the answer for that.
Gotcha. And finally, the it factor. I mean, a lot of people have trouble explaining what it is. I'll give you an opportunity to try to explain it to me. So what is the it factor?
The it factor for the 5-tool player is being able to do essentially any genre of sports entertainment and doing it at a very high level successfully and having people, I guess, gravitate towards you. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do a character that encompassed everything that I do, both in and out of the ring, because I try to be humble when I speak about myself, but I got to put myself over sometimes.
Yeah.
There's not very many people on the independent scene that is doing what I'm doing as far as hitting every genre of entertainment. I'm trying to be a sports entertainer. I can go out and give you a 5-star match in the ring. Mm-hmm. If a company needs me to go out and do media, I'm used to doing media. If a company needs me to go do, a magazine shoot, I've been on the cover of magazines. If you need me to do a commercial for the company, I've done 4 national commercials. If you need me to host something, I've hosted shows. I have a YouTube channel with over 55,000 subscribers. Mm-hmm. List goes on. I try and hit every form of entertainment, and I've done so successfully. So that is what contributes to the it factor for tool number 5.
Now, this is an area, speaking of hitting all different forms of entertainment, this is an area that I haven't seen any professional wrestler really hit. Do you consider like Broadway or the performing arts theater as one of those areas that you would one day be part of?
If the opportunity presents itself, I'm up for any kind of challenge. I'm kind of doing a little something like that right now. I'm performing tomorrow. Well, by the time this goes up, it'll be over with. But tomorrow I'm doing an improv show at UCB in New York City, which is a little intimidating, but I like putting myself in situations that I'm uncomfortable with because you can learn and grow from it. So if that opportunity ever presented itself, I would absolutely love to try that.
If there was any advice that anyone should take from this is take some improv classes, because as a professional wrestler, you have to fly at the seat of your pants. There's things thrown at you all the time, and you have to be able to react and create that story that you're telling in the ring and make it impactful and make it memorable for others. And I think improv prepares you for stuff like that.
It really does. This is the second level I've taken. The first one was kind of super basic, but this one is more in depth, and it's actually very hard, but it's also rewarding because when you get used to it and the structure of it, you go up and you do a scene with your scene partner, and you end up being up there for like 8 minutes, and you realize that you've created 8 minutes of content literally from just one word. And it's very cool. And it's also a good skill to have.
No, absolutely. Now, you started your career back in 2015, I want to say, right?
2000, and I started training in 2012 in December, and then my first match was January of 2013.
So it's been quite of a journey. What are your top 3 moments that you would consider in these last few years that have made the biggest impact in your career?
I'd have to say, well, one, I guess getting my first the WWE tryout, because that was kind of affirmation that I was on the right path, and I was working hard to get better. So I think that would have to be one of them. I think doing my first main event on Battle Club's first show against Tony Nese, right? It was the first time I've ever been in a situation, and the longest I think I've ever wrestled at that point, which I think we went like 30, so I was very nervous going into it. The third one, that's rough. I'd really have to sit and think. I don't want to take up too much time. If it comes to me, as you're asking me other questions, I'll just blurt it out.
All right, sounds good. But those are some great moments there. Going into that main event, you knew you were going to be getting 30-minute spot?
No, I didn't know until we got there. And it's like,
oh, wow.
The first 2 times I made events with him were just complete like anxiety attacks, because that was the first time I went that long. And then the second time was against Drew McIntyre, where at that point I was a lot more confident in myself to do those kinds of things. But we were supposed to go 20, and the show was running along. In New York City, if the show isn't done by 11, the
shut down.
Yeah, they can shut it down. So my music was hitting, and it was 10:47, 10:48, which I didn't know. And then the promoter came running in, and he was like, "Yeah, we have to cut like 13 minutes." And I'm like, "What?" This is as I'm like going through the curtain.
Oh my gosh!
I looked back at Drew.
Wow.
Drew was like, "I don't know, just go out there." So we got cut from 20 minutes to 7 minutes. And then I'm pacing around the ring, and I guess people are thinking I'm like amped up for the match. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what the hell we're going to do. And then Drew came in, and we got into each other's faces, and we were, again, looked like we were screaming at each other. But I was like, oh, no, what's going on? And we went from there. And it ended up going pretty well, because the final pinfall was at 10:59.
Wow, that's amazing. Again, we should go back into like how important improv is. Like, you know, you had your holy shit moment, but you internalized it, and you were able to give something to tell a story while you were out there. That's awesome.
Correct.
Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, you mentioned earlier you were you've been in publications, commercials, and you also star in your own vlog alongside your boyfriend Michael. What are the challenges being a public figure and being in all these different forms of social media?
I think not all the time, but sometimes being able to manage all of them, especially the YouTube channel, because I don't think people realize how much time and effort goes into creating consistent content for a YouTube channel.
Right.
It's like, it feels like you have to be filming almost every other day to keep something consistent going, and at the same time you're trying to figure out things that are different so the channel doesn't get stale, because you can only vlog so many times you go into the store or something. So it's a challenge to try and keep things fresh. It's a challenge to do it so often. It's a challenge to not get tired of always pulling out your camera and not really being in the moment sometimes. I guess that's the only problem. You can't really be in the moment of whatever's happening because you're so focused on trying to get a good shot or get it on camera. So it does take a toll on you, and then editing on top of that too. I guess thankfully Michael does it, but he can get stressed sometimes.
Editing is not easy.
A lot.
Trust me, for anybody who's a podcaster, anybody who's a vlogger, anyone who's working on always, especially when there's a deadline. Do you guys work on a deadline to get all your shows out in time, or you plan out your month at all?
We were toying with the idea of having 2 set days a week to post. Yeah. However, since both of our schedules are so all over the place, there are some times where maybe about 2 weeks ago, we had a gap of maybe about a week and a half that we couldn't post anything because, or the week of the Impact tapings, because I was there every day, and then I had improv classes, and then I had 3 more shows after that, and then I had casting. So I had no time to see him. I had no time to film anything. So that becomes the issue.
No, yeah, it is very difficult. Do you enjoy, what parts of it do you enjoy the most?
I enjoy getting the feedback of how we're helping people, which is the craziest thing to me, because we're not, most of our videos aren't like self-help videos where we're like speaking directly to the camera and telling people like positive things.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just us doing everyday activities, just us being us, and we just happen to have a camera on us.
Right.
And somehow through that, we're able to inspire people to, be themselves or just become more comfortable in their own skin and put a smile on their face, which I still don't understand how that happens, but I'm happy that it does work that way, and it feels great to look through those comments and see those responses.
Yeah, I mean, social media has just become a big part of our culture. Like you mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to find that balance of, do I live in this moment? This is a cool moment, or is this a cool moment, especially if you're a vlogger or you're putting content out? Like, is this something that I need to capture for other people to enjoy,
I mean, at the same time, too, because Michael and I were just saying this the other night when we posted our vlog, it's like, it's annoying sometimes, but at the same time, it's great for us because now we get to go back and relive those moments personally. Because if we didn't have a camera there, it would just be like, oh, do you remember when this happened? But like now we physically have footage that we can kind of go back over the course of the last 2 years, just relive certain moments. So it's cool in that aspect.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you're kind of creating your own time capsule, and you're seeing your journey.
That's a great way of putting it.
I just thought about it that way. But it's the same way with our podcast, because if we go back and we listen to the early episodes, and you could see not just the way we've grown into our own and being comfortable and having different guests on the show, but the news that we discuss about it, the things going on in professional wrestling, back then, and how things have changed. So it does kind of become like a time capsule.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, there's a lot of positives. There's negatives in social media. What are your thoughts about professional athletes and the way they use social media?
I think it is, at least from a social media perspective, a big responsibility, because for a lot of people, your word holds a lot of weight. So you have to be careful with what you say. And it's a good platform for you to help people. And I think a lot of people do use it for the right reasons, and some particularly may not. But I guess that's just a personal choice.
I've watched your blog before. You've explained on episode how you connected with Michael, on how you guys met, right? And you also explained on how you announced how you came out. When you look at those moments and you look back into them and telling the story, is there anything that you would change about anything that you've posted?
No, because I have been conscious of that since I really started wrestling. I've always made sure I watch what I say, and if I do say something, make sure it's positive.
Mm-hmm. It's a big
I've
responsibility.
Yeah, it is. I've gone back through my Twitter archive because, a lot of people were getting in trouble for some of the older tweets that they sent. So I didn't think I sent anything out weird, but I just wanted to go back and check anyway. And honestly, other than a few curse words that I got rid of, like, I really never tweeted anything stupid. So I think I've always been kind of smart enough to know not to do that.
It's hard to keep up, and I think that's good advice for anyone who is listening, and maybe it's part of that younger generation who idolize social media and feel like they need to post everything on there. It lives on there forever. You're an athlete who, along the way you're also growing, and your opinions may change. The way you look at life are constantly changing. I never thought of it for myself, but maybe it is time to go back into that social media bucket and see if there's anything that doesn't reflect the best you of who you are right now.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing. I tell anybody who's in the industry or doing anything that you're going to be in the public eye, like, it's just really not, even if it isn't particularly offensive, just there's no need of having it up there. Like, what's the point? Like, the value of that tweet means nothing from 6 years ago until somebody goes back and finds it and then takes offense to it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Just get rid of it. There's no need.
Now, the LGBT community is alive in pro wrestling. Do you get bothered by the fact that this topic will always come up in an interview for you?
No, it's something that I guess coming out, I knew was going to be a thing every time I
Yeah.
do have one of these interviews. There's a lot of things that you just kind of come to accept. That's one of them. Certain pockets of negativity are always going to be tossed my way. I've accepted that. So it doesn't particularly bother me at this point. If anything, it's an opportunity for me to kind of create more positive visibility and representation for the community. So I kind of take it as positive.
Yeah, I'm preparing for this interview. I got to be honest. I was like, there's so much more to Anthony Bowens than this topic, and I've talked to a lot of other wrestlers in the LGBT community, and I always am challenged myself to be like, well, there's so much more that they offer. There's so much more that they give that this shouldn't just be a topic. But like you said, it sometimes does need to be a light needs to be shined on it because there are struggles that you guys go through that not everybody else goes through, because there's so many different personalities and you guys are all shining of who you are, being honest of who you are out there and breaking down that stereotype of like, well, if you are a gay wrestler, this is the only version of that you could be. Have you given advice to people or have you sought advice from anyone?
I give advice to people. There are maybe a handful of people who came to me in the business that are struggling with the same thing, and I kind of tossed them some words of wisdom. But I don't think I've really had the opportunity to really look for advice from other people. I mean, I hung out with Fred Ross or Darren Young once. But we never really brought it up. It was just kind of like because there's no need to. It was just kind of like us hanging out. And it would be like in a situation where you just said, like, every interview, somebody asked me a question. Like, every time I sit with another LGBT wrestler, like, we don't have to talk about
Right.
the fact that we're gay in wrestling. So I really haven't really looked for advice. I've been kind of figuring out things on my own as I go along. I've been learning a lot. But, yeah, I do keep in contact with people like Mike Parrow, Jake Atlas on the West Coast. Sonny and I chat, Sonny Kiss chat from time to time. That's really about it.
Well, let's move on from it. Outside of professional wrestling, what are your passions? I guess outside of vlogging too. What are your other passions? I'm sure Chipotle is one of them.
I'm kind of boring now. I used to do a lot of stuff when I was younger. Now I just kind of like, I don't want to say I feel old, but when I'm not at wrestling or vlogging, Michael and I are just hanging out, or I'm with my friends hanging out, and I just like kind of chilling and talking to people. A lot of folks like going out and partying and going to clubs and stuff. If I'm there for more than like 5 minutes with that obnoxious music blasting in my ear, like I go nuts. So I'm really not in those kinds of situations very much. I think it's maybe to bowl. I like playing video games. I'm very big into trying strengthening my acting skills. So I do a lot of research into that. So not a lot of going on in at the moment outside of any kind of like entertainment stuff.
Well, you say you don't like that pouncing music. What kind of music do you listen to?
I'm pretty well-rounded when it comes to music. I'll listen to generally anything, but in that specific instance, like if I go out someplace like to a bar, I have a drink or something, I want to be able to converse with the people that are sitting next to me. And if the music is so loud and like pulsating that you have to like scream or be about a centimeter away from somebody's ear and still have to scream to be able to like have a conversation, I hate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what music's playing. I can love the song, but if I can't like converse and have a good time, then it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. And video games, what video game are you hooked on right now? Do you got that new WWE game?
I do not, because joining the wrestling business kind of ruined all that for me, because as I'm playing, I'm like, well, that doesn't make much sense. Why is he going for this? I realize I start analyzing the video game, and it just ruins the entire experience, so I don't even bother anymore. Right now, I'm hooked on Spider-Man.
Okay.
On PS4.
Well, thinking about that, has the wrestling business ruined you watching wrestling like you used to? Like, do you see what's going on in WWE programming a little bit differently now?
Slightly, but a lot of these guys are so good that they make you forget and you become a fan again, which I
Okay.
love.
That's awesome.
A lot of the guys in NXT do that, and I also enjoy seeing a lot of the people who I've worked with or people who I've considered friends on TV and just doing well for themselves. So it just all that kind of goes out the window anyway.
Yeah. Well, we have a big saying on the show, wrestling brings us together. Who are you grateful for that professional wrestling has brought into your circle?
I can't say one person. It's just I love my wrestling friends. We have a good group of people surrounding me that, like even back in the day when I was struggling with myself before I came out, like my 2 hours 2 hours a night for 3 days a week with the guys at training were like my happy place, a place where I can just forget everything and just have fun. So I'm thankful for pretty much anybody who I've come in contact with in the wrestling industry who's helped me out in that aspect, or has just been a good friend in general. Yes, maybe Dan Moff would be one of them. I think he's played a big role in my career, just as far as just developing as a wrestler and the aggression behind it. I mean, Pat trained me from scratch, so I guess he's the number one trainer guy. But Moff, he instilled that fire and that aggression that I think is so important and what people attach to me as a performer.
Interesting. Is there any piece of advice that he may have shared or anybody else has shared that you still keep to you to this day?
Yeah, but I prefer to keep that part to myself. I think he said something that was pretty important. And then there's been a couple other people. I had a good conversation with Kenny Omega when he came to one of our training sessions a couple years ago that kind of changed how I worked in the ring. And it was actually very similar to what Moff had said, and that kind of put it over the top for me. So probably those two conversations.
All right. Now, we captured you today. I'm going to go ahead and just date this show. It's on November 9th. Tonight is, you have a WrestlePro show, it's show day. Is there anything special that goes on for you on show day?
I don't like have any kind of superstitions or any kind of thing that I do particularly beforehand. I usually just wake up and make sure I'm relaxed as possible, have a good lunch so I'm prepared for the day, and then once I get to the building, I kind of I say my hellos, and then I just I kind of find a place where I can relax and just be by myself and just focus up on what I want to do, or maybe something that I think would be cool for the night. And then once everybody else arrives that I'll be wrestling, then I kind of just put the match together and let it sink in, and then I go out and have a good match. I know a lot of people have certain things that they do, but I try not to get into any kind of habit.
Man, it's always been a treat seeing you in the ring. You mentioned the Power Rangers gimmick earlier and how you pretty much just win everybody over when you get to the ring. The first time I saw you, I was like, yo, this guy looks like a freaking superstar. He's coming out. He's huge. He has the big Power Rangers gear on. Yeah, this guy's awesome. And then you get into the ring, you're like, whoa, this just guy went from awesome to freaking amazing, because the things that you do, the way that you captivate an audience is great. So if anybody has not seen Anthony Bowens, I encourage you to go see you at any show, pretty much. Is there anything coming soon where we could catch you at?
Well, first of all, thank you for that. Much appreciated. November 17th, Capitol Wrestling in Hoboken. I'll be facing Darius Carter, and then the next night I will be in Rhode Island for which is Wrestling Has It Tomorrow, and the opening scramble, which will be my debut there. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, without looking at my schedule, I can't remember what's happening in the beginning of December. But look out for my social media accounts where I will be posting about all that stuff, which is Twitter and Instagram at Bowens_official, and then the YouTube channel is Michael and Anthony.
Awesome, my man. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a treat, man, and I definitely look to seeing you in the very near future.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. All right, everyone, we have made it to the end of this episode, and it's last call. We're still here with Anthony Bowens, wrestling's 5-tool player. Anthony, it's rapid fire questions. The first thing that comes to your mind is the first thing you should answer. Are you ready?
Oh, God. Yeah, sure.
All right. What is your favorite adult beverage?
Long Island iced tea.
What's your favorite TV show?
Three's Company.
Name one thing on your bucket list.
Very random. Outside of wrestling, I want to be a celebrity judge on something like a X Factor or a American Idolish type show.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. All right. What do you eat on your cheat day?
Bacon cheeseburgers.
Other than wrestling, what is your favorite sport?
Baseball.
What song do you like to sing at karaoke?
I hate karaoke.
Whoa. All right. Who was your mark-out wrestler growing up?
Probably Jeff Hardy.
Who is your celebrity crush?
I really don't have one. People ask me that a lot. I'm terrible with like people's names other than like the superstars. And like people, oh, did you see that movie with I don't know.
That's all right.
Yes, I really don't have one.
You know what? You could be the celebrity's favorite celebrity crush. How about that?
I like that.
And finally, Anthony, before I let you go, what is on your New Year's resolution list?
Well, I want to wrestle every weekend. I'm trying to get on another magazine cover. I want on my YouTube channel to hit 100,000 subscribers. From an acting perspective, I want to book my first speaking role in a TV show because I've mostly done commercials. And then the ultimate one is to, sign a little contract with some TV company. But
sounds good,
one
man.
step at a time.
All right, Anthony, you have survived last call. Thank you so much for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling.
Thank you very much.
And let me tell you, if you enjoyed what you listened here today, follow us on all forms of social media. That's at A Shot of Wrestling on Instagram and Facebook, and Shot of Wrestling, no A on Twitter. This show is and always will be from the fans and to the fans, and it'll always be your forum to discuss your thoughts, so have fun with it. And who knows, your thoughts could be part of next week's show. Who's coming up next week? Only time will tell, but for now, just make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
Hey baby, I hear the bell ringing, hip tosses and body slams. Oh my. And maybe you seem a bit confused, yeah baby, but I got you pinned. Ha 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 ha. But I don't know what to do when I see them with that golden case. They're cashing it in. Authority all in my face. What is a man to do? Good night, everybody.